Welcome to En Route to Success, where we have raw, vulnerable conversations between Fitz DeSanto, Sam Boyer, and many talented individuals, unraveling the truths and principles of people's experiences, methods to grow, and discovering how to live a fulfilling lifestyle. Buckle up, the journey begins now.
Hey, friends. How are you guys doing today? Welcome to our podcast. I'm joined by my co-host here, Sam, the DJ voice. How are you today?
DJ voice. I'm good, Fitz. I'm doing well as usual. Excited to speak with our special guest here today.
Absolutely. Let's get into that. So our special guest today is really success with Miss Kelly Curtis. So Kelly's a good friend of mine and really has such a unique, powerful story. I worked with Kelly when I was in the fitness industry myself, and I gotta say, I had a really great time working with you, Kelly. And coming from being a dancer in such a young age, one of the most fun thing you could do with Kelly is take her spin class because it's guaranteed that you'll have a great time. But you know, the story of hitting rock bottom that really includes a lot of drug addiction and alcoholism to now owning your own and running your own fitness studio owner. I'm really excited how we uncovered this. So without further ado, welcome Kelly Curtis.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the time that you put into us here. And I'm excited to share your story with our listeners out there. And really to begin with, I'd like to really just check in, like maybe you could have a high overview of your background, your origin story, where Kelly is from, the story of your struggles and where you are today. I know that's a lot, but just kind of take your time and what's really coming from your heart and what you wanted to share, and then we can just peel it off later on after we've done the overview.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for having me.
Of
I'm excited to be
course.
here. Let's see. Well, I grew up in Orange County, in Huntington Beach and Newport Beach. I come from a pretty good family. I mean, my childhood wasn't too crazy. I started dancing at the age of 2. I danced for about 20 years. So that was a huge part of my life. Had a great mother and father. I have one sister. My mom and dad were together until I was about 12, and then they divorced. After high school, I sorry. Just want to go straight through. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you could talk about just a little bit of like your background and then how you got into the drug addiction, how you recovered a little bit, and then we'll peel it off later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in high school, after my parents' divorce, I really started to kind of rebel. And that's when I got into drinking. I think I took my first drink at the age of 14 with my best friend in my bedroom when my mom and my sister were at Disneyland or something. And from the first drink I ever had, I blacked out. So I don't really remember much about that night. I do remember, however, when I took the drink, I just felt like everything was okay. Like every bit of anxiety or that sense of not belonging or that sense of not fitting in just kind of went away. And I had to have more of it. So after that, all through high school, I just partied my ass off. If going to a party, I had to have alcohol. If I couldn't get it, it kind of made me angry. But I also ran with a group that kind of, did the same thing. And I didn't really think I had a problem in high school. But then it continued after high school. I went to college for a couple of years, but only lasted, I think I got I know I got my associates, but never finished my bachelor's. Because like I said, couldn't stop drinking. And at that point, like going into my 20s, I started to lose relationships. People started to notice, you know, Kelly's wasted before we even pick her up to go out. Just because I had to have it to feel comfortable. Like I just felt so uncomfortable and so uncomfortable in my skin without it. But I wasn't a good drunk. I mean, I would drink 4 or 5 drinks and pass out. It didn't really matter where I was. I would pass out on a lawn chair. I would pass out in the club. I would pass out on someone's couch. And my friends had to take care of me. So, you know, they just started to get really annoyed by that. And so I started to lose relationships. I met my ex-husband when I was 19, and he was a big partier as well. And then we dated on and off for about 10 years and ended up getting married. But he was at that time prescribed Klonopin, which is an anti-anxiety medication. And I quickly found out that would cure my hangovers in the morning.
Really?
So I started taking those, and then I started stealing them. And then when he caught on to that, I started taking my dog to different vets because, and I would tell the vets that my dog had a hard time in the car and that we needed anti-anxiety medication for my dog. And did the research, and doggy Xanax is the same as human Xanax. Wow. So I had about 6 different vets going who would prescribe me 6 different prescriptions of Xanax or doggy Valium. And so that, on top of alcohol, is a terrible combination. It's very deadly if you take too much, and it is the worst detox and the most dangerous detox when trying to come off of it. So anyways, I started lying about my drinking, started hiding it, I hid everything. Everything was a lie. I couldn't keep my life straight. But while I was doing that, I still had a very successful career in fitness. Nobody knew. Like, it was like I was living a double life. For a long time, living a double life, I would do fitness during the day and then come home and drink. Until those worlds started to come together. I started drinking before teaching, and I taught several spin classes, drunk or in a blackout, trampoline classes in a blackout. And still nobody really questioned anything. Except, my family did, of course. My family knew. And so I don't really remember what my rock bottom was. I just knew I was just tired. I was exhausted from all the lies. I just didn't want to live that life. I was miserable. That life is torture. It wasn't fun anymore. It hadn't been fun for a long time. So I went to my first outpatient rehab, which was a 30-day program where you go for like 2 or 3 hours and you sit in a group, you talk, you start to work the steps. You're supposed to be going to AA meetings. So I stayed sober for 30 days while I went to that program. And then I think I drank like 2 days after. A couple more years went by. I think I had a few months here and there of sobriety, but always went back to alcohol and Xanax and Klonopin and all that stuff. So relapse is a huge part of my story. And then in 2014, my family had an intervention, and they asked me if I would go to an inpatient treatment, and I was like, yes, please just take me. I'll go wherever you want me to go, because I just couldn't stop. I could probably stop drinking. I just couldn't stop taking the pills. Every time that just wasn't possible, because I was taking so much, and I would either feel like I was going to have a seizure or I don't know. I was just scared out of my mind. So I went to a 90-day treatment facility, and where I lived in a house with 10 other girls. And, we went to meetings. We did a ton of work. We had a therapist every day. We learned how to do life as well as get sober. We learned how to cook. We learned how to clean. We learned just everything. Because I didn't really know how to live life as a sober person.
Got it.
Alcohol and drugs were the center of my world. And doing anything without that was just severely uncomfortable. So I made it through that. It was a great program. Came out of that. I moved back in with my, at the time, husband. And I managed to stay sober for 4 years. But towards the end of those 4 years, my husband and I separated. Mm-hmm. And so all in 1 year, we separated. I had a big career change. I don't remember, a couple other things happened, but too many things started happening. Mm-hmm. And I stopped going to meetings, and I stopped reaching out to my support system. And I eventually I ended up relapsing again. Mm-hmm. So I was out there for about 2 months drinking, and I went back to the pills as well. And again, I just ended up in my apartment alone, drinking and downing pills, mm-hmm. doing nothing else. It was just a very lonely existence. I felt hopeless. And so I had a friend who had gone to Hoag Hospital to their treatment center, and he asked me if I wanted him to take me to detox, and I said yes right away. He took me to detox. Went through the most horrible detox of my life. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it was pure terror. Yeah. And went to their inpatient 30-day program, and I've been sober ever since. I'll have 3 years in March.
Now you own your own fitness studio, changing lives every day, one heart at a time. No, Kelly, that's such a powerful story, and I really appreciate you taking that time and giving that information, because it's really moving. I'm sitting here, right, and you're sitting on the other side of the corner, and I'm just fascinated by the current events. I gotta warn you, I have a lot of notes because we're gonna unpeel them.
Well, there's a lot of stuff we don't know. I know we've been friends for a long time.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
There's a lot of details in there.
No, like for me, right, I want to backtrack a little bit, right, with your story of having that drug addiction, the alcoholism, and how it began. Can you walk us through, like, if you would think about it, can you walk us through how you felt, like, when you said you were kind of a rebel? Like, is there anything that happened that prompted it, or that you turn and lean into that alcoholism when you were 14 or wherever it is?
From as early as I can remember, I felt different. I felt uncomfortable in my skin. I had social anxiety. I was in therapy in 3rd grade because I was afraid for my parents to leave. Every time I left, I felt like they wouldn't come back. Nothing had happened either, like nothing. I just had this incredible anxiety. And although I was well-liked, I was popular, I just felt like something was wrong all the time. And
do you think that contributed to how you turning into the alcoholism?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because alcoholism and drug addiction is an inside problem.
Sure.
Alcohol is just the Band-Aid. Mm-hmm. So that's why you can take the alcohol and drugs out of your system if you don't do the internal work. It's not, it's great that you're not drinking anymore, mm-hmm. but you just you'll never feel that sense of freedom if you don't do the real work, And so I had to, once I stopped drinking, I had to do the work to figure out why I was so anxious, why I was the way I was. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this had something to do with it, but when my parents got divorced, my dad had an affair, and left my mom, and I saw my mom just in this tragic state for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I guess I kind of felt, I didn't realize this until actually the last couple of years, that I felt abandoned by my dad, although we always had a relationship. I think that had a lot, now looking back on it, I think that had a lot to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not blaming the divorce on my alcoholism. I'm just saying it contributed to the feelings inside.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. It totally makes sense. It's almost like it ignite you to turn into that, you know?
Yeah.
By the way, Fitz, you need to edit this. Are you hot? Because I'm hot. Like
I'm a little hot.
Are you a little hot?
A little bit.
Do you want me to open the video? Hang on a second.
Actually, I can take this off.
Yeah. Intermission. Edit it out, Fitz. No, Kelly, but you're doing great. I love all these story and.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm like over here taking notes, listening in. I got questions too, so don't worry.
No, I mean, like it's really fascinating with that whole story. But if you don't mind, I gotta like I'll drill it a little bit more.
Ask
you know?
me anything
like,
you want. Yeah.
So you know me, Sam. Okay. All right. Let's proceed. Well, let's see. Where am I? Okay. So Kelly, I mean, for me, I really this is where it really gets raw, you guys. And thank you, Kelly, for being vulnerable because, you know, would you say that, that's all right.
Sorry.
Would you want me to?
It's okay. I don't need it.
Okay. Like, would you say that was rock bottom for you? Worse at your worst, you know? As far as like, I mean, for me, I would see it as that. And if it is, what prompted you to actually like to shift to get better, right? Like, because like what if you could walk us through that notion and your thought process? It's like, I'm not gonna die today, you know, like, so walk us through like what was going through Kelly's mind and mindset.
I mean, I think people can have more than one rock bottoms.
Of course.
And yeah, I was just, like I said, I felt hopeless. I didn't know what to do anymore. I was losing relationships. I was on the verge of losing my family. I was in a tiny studio apartment. Just like I was just a shell of a person. And I was scared. I was scared out of my mind. I didn't know. I'm the type of person that will never give up, no matter how hard it gets. And I just didn't want to live like that anymore. Like, it was a terrible existence.
What were you scared about when you said you were scared? Were you scared of?
I was scared I was going to die.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. I was scared I was going to die. I was scared I was never going to be able to get these relationships back. I was scared I was never going to feel okay inside. I was scared I was never going to love myself again. I hated myself so much. I can't even tell you how much I hated myself.
So as you turn that page and then walk us through and like, today what was your thought process? Did you, like, for me, whenever I'm like really depressed, I'm like, okay, Fitz, today do at least one thing that's productive and then just add another one tomorrow. That's just how I process. But at that moment when you were really like feeling the way you felt, what was that emotion that kind of like, I would say, grab you and scoop you off like, Kelly, this is going to be okay? Like, what was it like?
To be honest, I had to be offered the chance to get better. Like, I don't know if I would have done it on my own. Because I was just always inebriated.
Of course.
Like, and that's why I don't really remember, you know, the exact thought process. But I mean, if someone were to just take my hand and pull me and say, okay, this is what you have to do, I would have been like, yes, please, just tell me whatever I have to do. I will do it. I just want to get better. What
was that chance that you had? Who, like, did someone, your friend?
The first time my family had an intervention. So, and I had already been going to AA meetings and I had a sponsor and I was really trying to get sober on my own, or not my own, but just with AA, not having to go to treatment. So I was already connected in that circle. But yeah, my family had an intervention and they offered to pay for treatment or pay for half of it, whatever insurance didn't cover. And I mean, my family stopped their life to get me better. Like, they had to go to a lot of family therapy. they had to get involved because it's a family problem. Like,
Got it.
it really is a family problem. It's not just I was affecting the lives of so many other people, not just myself. And it's a very, very selfish disease because all I was thinking about when I was drinking and taking drugs is myself, you know? I mean, thinking about just how, I don't know, just how hopeless I was, how horrible my life was, how much I just didn't like myself. I didn't like the person I was, you know? And the second time, my friend Barry, he asked me if he wouldn't take me to detox, and I said yes. But if he hadn't have done that, I think eventually, because at my second time around, I knew how great life could get.
Got it.
You know, being sober.
Because I was gonna ask, what made you say yes? Because you could easily say no, right?
Yeah. So I knew how great life could be because in that 4 years that I was sober, the first 3 years they were amazing. You know, I built up a big name for myself in the fitness industry.
You did. I know.
And I worked my ass off. I have a really strong work ethic. So I just, worked, but that's really all I did was work.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of balance in my life, but anyways, I'm getting off track. But yeah, I just wanted to get that sense of freedom back.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really powerful. And thank you for sharing that and letting me dig deep. Sam, do you have any other things you?
Yeah, something that I'm curious about from like a fitness standpoint, when you were saying how like kind of early on, the lines were separated where, after work would be, where the drinking and stuff would come into play. And then, you would work during the day. And then even when it transitioned into drinking before classes, but like no one knew, especially with fitness and like taking care of your body is such a huge thing. How did you get through that? Because I'm thinking back to like playing sports, and I mean, if I ate McDonald's the night before and then had to run in the morning, like I was over on the side like throwing up because I couldn't run. So I'm trying to like picture my body just can't handle that. So like what was the feeling, I guess, and how did you actually maintain that level of like coaching people?
Especially teaching too. You're right. Yeah. All these people, right? So
I don't know, man. I mean, like still people still ask me to that day. I have no idea.
No, I mean, like I think I've gone to one of those, Kelly, and you look normal, right? Like it was.
I mean, people could have smelled me, and sure. I don't know. As far as I know, no one knew, But I don't know. I always kind of knew my limit. Like I knew, like I wouldn't just get crazy wasted before a class. I would just have enough to make me feel comfortable. But yeah, I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go 100 miles an hour on a spin bike, just totally buzzed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no. I
think it's the balance and the grit of.
And it's adrenaline.
Yeah.
Fitness is a lot of, especially teaching, is a lot of adrenaline.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. So I want to get into like also the fitness side, right? And relates to I have to say, Kelly, let's talk about how you get into the fitness world. And I know you're there and very successful in it today. And I gotta say, whenever I'm in your class, I'm like, I'm having so much fun, right? It's like I gotta have a loyal badge. I'm the only one that's always first in class all the time, and I know, Kelly, you could speak to this and we can edit it out if you don't want me to say it. But to all our listeners out there, if you know Kelly's like this sweetest girl that you talk to, and Sam, you could attest to it now at this point. But when she's up on that stage, she becomes like this gangster, super good, just having a great time. And Kelly, just watching you teach, I have to say, is probably one of the most genuine and moving a person can experience in a class. Because for me, that's the reason why I go to your class. So tell us, like, when you talk about like the adrenaline, like talk to us about, like, because me watching you up there is like, I could totally see how a great time you're having, right? Even to a point that I know Kelly on a personal level, if we would talk about both of our issues, and I know that if Kelly's going through something, but when she's up there, it's almost like when you're up in that podium and you're teaching, it's almost like I know it's your calling because I could just feel it, you know, I could feel that you enjoy what you do. You love, from the music to the detail to the organization to, you know, I have to say, when I first took Kelly's class, I was scared of her a little bit. I was like, and she asked me, she's like, what did you think? I thought you were crazy, but at the same time, I kept coming back. So anyway, so yeah, walk us through and what's going on when you hit play in that class.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I just genuinely love it.
Yeah.
You know, especially choreographed spin. Like I love the choreography of it all. I love hip hop music. The dirtier and the ratchetier, that even word, the better. And I think I'll listen to hip hop until I die.
Yeah.
Until I'm 80 years old. I love dancing. I love it. It probably comes from my dance background, you know? And I love performing, I guess. I mean, I definitely have a little bit of an alter ego when I'm up on stage, but
in a good way. I mean, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, in a good way. I mean, you're not a boot camp trainer, but you make us work. So in a way of motivating.
I've always kind of been known everywhere I go. I've always been kind of known for the hardest,
it's really
or the toughest instructor. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like I have to live up to that. But at the same time, like I want people to come to my classes and get their money's worth. Like you're there to work out, you know, why not work your ass off?
Yeah.
You know, so, and I just kind of train people and teach classes the way I would want to be taught.
Yeah.
But bottom line is because I genuinely just love it.
How did you get into fitness for the most part from the very beginning?
In the very beginning, I was actually taking classes at Orange Coast College, and they had a fitness specialist program. And it was a 2-year certification program. So I went through that. I met the director of the PE department, and I became very close. And I started working in the adapted PE department in at Orange Coast College, which I was working with and training paraplegics and quadriplegics and people with just physical disabilities. And I loved that. And then the director, who I had become close with, also owned a gym in Newport Beach, and he offered me a job as a personal trainer. So I started working there. I worked there for a couple of years, and then I took a couple of breaks here and there. I took a 2-year break. I did behavioral therapy with autistic children, but then I just had to get back to fitness. So where did I go from there? I'm trying to think. Oh, I opened a Pilates studio in Newport Beach, and I opened and managed that. I taught there for about 2 years, and then but I had moved to Long Beach. So I wanted to work closer to home. So then that's when I applied at John Gary, and I worked at John Gary Fitness for 6 years.
Yeah, where you and I met.
Yeah. And then on to Iconics, and now I own my own studio.
Absolutely.
So,
It's such a fascinating story. Thank you for sharing that. Sam, do you have any? I know you have notes there, so you're giving me the eye look.
I do have notes. I guess from my perspective, because fitness is such a unique industry, you kind of have to figure things out on your own. Was it just your own determination that kind of figured out those different paths for you to take, and then the amount of work it takes to start your own business in the fitness industry and build a brand and a name for yourself? And now it seems like to do it almost twice or more if there's other events that you kind of have to draw your own clients in. But how has that gone for you? What have been some of the struggles from the business side of things? And then what keeps you going and motivated to just continually pushing? Because you literally can't stop with your own business or fitness. You have to go. So what keeps you going forward too?
The hardest thing for me has been exactly the business side of it, because I'm working 13, 14-hour days, and I don't have time I really haven't had time to build my brand or had time to do a lot of that stuff. Which it's a big goal for me in the next year to get that all done. And I might have to hire somebody, and as far as building up a clientele and everything, I've kind of stayed in the same area. So I'm just really lucky to have been able to get my name out there to a lot of people, and to be kind of, I don't want to sound arrogant, but
You're not arrogant.
well, kind of well known in the Long Beach area.
Yes.
You know?
And
So people have just kind of followed me from place to place, and I'm really, really lucky for having such loyal clients.
absolutely.
Yeah, but the business side of it, it gives me a headache every day. It causes me anxiety every day because I know there's so much I need to do, and I just don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
And when I do have the time to do it, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm such a procrastinator. I'm just being totally honest.
No, I mean, it's funny because I'm smiling because every time Kelly and I hang out I've only been in the fitness industry for not so long. So it's either I know people and it's not self-congratulatory, Kelly. It's just a factual, because whenever me and Kelly are together and we would walk around, it's guaranteed we're going to see someone either she knows or I know, but kind of know Kelly, and vice versa. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's almost like, hey, so it's a small community, but then it does show that when you make an impact on people's lives, they really follow, right? It's almost like it's like your hairdresser,
Yeah, you're definitely a trainer and a therapist at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, I mean, and in the business side of it, it's
well, even you keep offering to help me, and I just keep pushing it away and
but we'll do
away.
it. We will
Not
do
that
it.
I don't want to. I think, you know what? I think, to be honest, that side is so hard for me because I'm scared of it. I don't know what I'm doing.
No one does.
Really, and I'm not good at it, and I know, so I just need help with it, and I need to welcome the help.
Absolutely. And no, I mean, to all our listeners out there, it's not that bad, Kelly, right? Like with what you say, it's you're doing fantastic, really. And I think you and I talk about this too. Like sometimes for us, it becomes like, this is the raw conversations. Like we're the worst critic of ourselves. Right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's much bigger in my mind than it is anywhere else.
So, like just shifting here a little bit, how do you stay track in relates of the sobriety? Like is there ways that you do in relates of, how does Kelly keep herself on track? Is there alternatives that you do? Not alternatives, but I would say a new habit that you pick up, being sober, or I know fitness is a huge part of it, but to all our listeners out there that's currently on the urge of maybe wanting help or trying to stay on track or on the fence, what would you tell them right now?
But you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. Staying connected in some sort of sobriety group is definitely the key, especially in the beginning. In the beginning, I was pretty involved with AA. I did 90 meetings in 90 days. And that really, really helped. It helped me to form a habit. It helped me to meet a lot of people in the program. It helped me to share my story. And, working the steps, the 12 steps is definitely key, or is key for me. Everybody's different, but the 12 steps is definitely the key to freedom, I would say. But now, I honestly don't go to very many meetings. But I do stay in contact with one of my best friends is sober. I met her in AA. So we talk a lot. We go on walks a lot. I do a lot of meditation. Running is a big thing for me. Running, it clears my mind. It helps me to think about what I need to do for the day. Helps me to talk to God. And my higher power is a huge thing. I couldn't have done this without a higher power. There's no way.
Yeah.
So I know everybody has their own view on that, but that is hugely important when trying to get sober, is to know that there's something out there bigger than you. It can be anything. It can be your big toe, but it doesn't have to be a man, You know, it could be anything. It could be the ocean, but something greater than you that you know is out there helping you and pulling you out of this, and somebody that's rooting for you. You know.
Yeah. No. Thank you, Kelly. That's really good. I mean, one of the things that on a lighter note, like, Sam, do you have any other questions that you want to address?
I'm just curious as to what your meditation practice looks like. I've become pretty active in that myself over the last year and a half. So I'm just curious what that looks like for you.
Sometimes it's better than others, but I usually have to listen to something. So depends on how much time I have in the morning. But I usually either use Insight Timer, which is an app, or Calm. And I just sit there and listen to it and breathe into it. I do different kinds of meditations, a lot of self-esteem type stuff, and grounding. I feel like I always need to be grounded, but it's usually in the morning, right? Like in the first 10 minutes of me waking up, I'll get my coffee and then meditate. And sometimes I don't do it, and I can feel a huge difference in my day, negatively.
No, I could appreciate that.
I'm glad you shared that, because that's been the biggest takeaway for me too, is when I don't do it, the effect on the rest of the day is super evident.
Totally.
Kind of scary how clear that becomes, but
totally.
Yeah, no, that was my curiosity there from your perspective, because I don't do much running anymore, as much as I should probably, but meditation is a huge part for me, so I really like that.
Meditation is great. It's really life-changing. It is. And this doesn't have anything to do with meditation, but making my bed every single morning.
Oh, hey.
Something I learned in treatment: messy bed, messy head. So now if I don't make my bed, I feel like I'm out of control all day long.
I could relate to that. And I didn't even go to the treatment. I just I want to make sure the bed is made. It's just something with a crisp bed that's made. It almost like it starts your day right for some reason.
Oh, since getting sober, I am very meticulous and like anally clean.
I know. I've seen it too. So just as we wrap up here, Kelly, what does Kelly do to like recharge and get her strength, in relates to, I know, being in front of people all the time, either one-on-one or class. How do you manage to, I know you said meditation, is there any other areas that you do? I know you take a lot of classes, so maybe you could talk about that, and where you get your challenge. I mean, where you get your strength when all these challenging, how do you make your classes more challenging and not the same from yesterday, so.
My classes?
Yeah, like as far as like just what inspires Kelly, like where does Kelly recharge to be inspired, and also where you get your strength, so when you're in front of people, you are in your own space. So meditation is one.
Meditation, taking other people's classes, definitely, for inspiration. Making playlists. I love making playlists, and I love, like I said, choreography, and I'll listen to that playlist about 15 times, so I know it like the back of my hand when I'm teaching. What else? To recharge, I read a lot. And I need my alone time.
You nailed it. Yes.
I need my alone time. Like, because I'm with, like, I'm with people all day long. I need, you're giving so much of yourself all day long. At the end of the day, like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame you for that.
I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to text anybody. I just, and on my days off, I feel kind of antisocial, but it's like, I just need that time. Yeah. And I'm a total introvert.
I know.
Nobody would know it.
No one would ever know it if you go to Kelly's class, because it's like, she wild, well, just closing it out, Kelly, I want to give you the open floor for probably a minute or two to really say what's coming on your heart, from your heart, right? And also, what would you say to our listeners out there? That I know you've tapped on this a little bit earlier, but I'd like to give you the floor and say what you wanted to say coming from your heart. to everybody, right? To everyone
Yeah.
that's like
Well, for anybody who's struggling, whether it be alcohol or drugs or whatever, a breakup, job loss, I don't know, just be vulnerable. Just find it in yourself to be vulnerable and to be honest and to just talk and try and stay connected, you know? Give me a sec. And it is possible to change. I'm a firm believer that, I mean, people say people don't change, but they do. I mean, if you really put in the work and dive deep into yourself, you can change. You can have a change of perspective. You can have your entire life could change. You know, like I said, I was in a studio apartment alone drinking and downing pills. I could have died, and now I own my own studio and super successful, and I love my life.
Yes.
You know, so it is possible. Anything's possible. Just try not to lose hope. But the most important thing is vulnerability. You have to be vulnerable to change.
Thank you, Kelly. That's really moving, and I agree with you 100%. It's almost like we can't turn ourselves to the world even when we're angry, right? It's a lot more. I mean, it's easier said than done, but to be really vulnerable opens. It's almost a gateway of everything, of good things. So,
yes, and honesty. Yeah.
Sam.
I got nothing. I'm at a loss for words. There's so much good things to take away from this, but I think at least two things I want to summarize from what you shared, Kelly, is that like you don't have to know everything to be a successful business owner, for one. No. And two, you can change, like you just shared. That is so huge. I think we get stuck in a rut of, no, this is who I am. This is like what I do. And it's based around a lot of habits that we have for ourselves and like reaching out to get help from the right people, whether it's a habit of alcoholism or drug addiction, or if it's a habit of, you know, not making good decisions financially or not having a budget in place. Like random things all come down to bad or good habits. So I just want people to really understand, like Kelly's a walking, talking example of you don't have to know everything and you can put in the work to change and become as successful as you want to be. So just thank you for the vulnerability, Kelly. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for joining us today, and we really appreciate that time. Sam, I'll let you tell our listeners now.
Absolutely. Well, as always, you can find us directly at alohafitzsam@gmail.com or on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at En Route to Success 365, or individually on LinkedIn at Fitz DeSanto or Sam Boyer. And of course, Kelly, we'd like to have you share where people can find you and potentially get in touch with you, or even follow some of your content, or maybe if they're in the area, take some of your courses or classes and just let them know where they can find you.
Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram at Kelly Curtis Bloom. The last 5, BLOOM. I'm also on Facebook. And I also, I have my studio in Seal Beach. It's also called Bloom. And I also teach at Grit Cycle. So if you follow at Grit Cycle for indoor cycling, you can find the schedule online there.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
I want to give a quick shout out to Howe's family, Adrian, Connor, Tony, and their dog Buckley, who's Chili's litter mate, has been an avid listener to all our podcasts. So thank you guys for listening. So Kelly, we always end our session with, or our podcast with, things that we're grateful for. So today I'm really grateful for the sun because it's been rainy here for us. So how about you, Kelly? What's you grateful for?
I'm grateful for meditation today, for sure.
That's a good one. Sam, what's yours?
Yeah, I could echo the meditation, but I'm going to go with the fitness industry, because without it, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, and I wouldn't have had my interest in how this was going to go anyway. But it's kind of the reason you two met and the reason we're all here today. So Really appreciative of it.
That's a good one. All right, guys. And remember, even small victory is always, always to be grateful for. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Take care.